Well, there's a lot of developments yet to come, but I do believe the Supreme Court should step in. Obviously, this is totally unprecedented, and it's dangerous to our system. I mean, we've all discussed this before, and you all talk about it all the time. This is diminishing the American people's faith in our system of justice itself. And to maintain a republic, you have to have that. People have to believe that justice is fair, that there's equal justice under law. They don't see that right now. And I think that the justices on the court, I know many of them personally, I think they're deeply concerned about that as we are. So I think they'll set this straight, but it's going to take a while.
That was House Speaker Mike Johnson moments ago on Fox News, responding to a question on whether the Supreme Court should get involved in Donald Trump's appeals process before November's election. Joining us now, Democratic member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. Thank you very much for being on the show this morning. Your reaction to the verdict and also to what the Speaker of the House was just saying.
Look, the verdict is a success for the rule of law. It is the exact opposite of what Speaker Mike Johnson is saying, that this was the rule of law. This was our tried and true criminal justice system playing out. And what Speaker Johnson, Donald Trump, others don't like is that his purely politicized attacks on the rule of law, attacks on our democracy, are not allowed in court. Our courts have very specific rules of evidence. They have very specific laws that apply to all trials against any defendant, including the former president of the United States. And so what you saw is, for the first time that we can remember, Donald Trump does not get to control the narrative in court. And a jury simply has to focus on the facts, the evidence, apply it to the law that they are given by the judge, and not consider anything else. And that's where Donald Trump runs into problems, is when the rule of law reigns supreme. And so the Speaker has it exactly wrong. This is why we should have faith in our system, because it was an impartial jury of 12. They were vetted. They were asked questions. You may have personal feelings, but the question is whether you can put those to the side and rule on the facts and evidence alone. And that is what we saw over the last several weeks. And Donald Trump and his acolytes and his supporters may not like it, but that is what makes this country special. That is what we have depended on for 250 years, and that's what we must save on November 5th at the ballot box.
So, Congressman, I wanted to bring on air a conversation we just had as you sat down. There's been sort of conventional wisdom that this case, and one in New York, is the only one that's going to happen between now and the election. But there is the outside shot that the federal January 6th case might as well. We heard the Speaker invoke the Supreme Court. They're currently mulling it over. Give us your read. Is there a chance that we could see that one, too?
There is a chance. First, we have to deal with this absolutely absurd situation where two justices are completely conflicted from ruling on the case that's before the Supreme Court. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito both have spouses, if you believe them, who were involved in the underlying facts of that case. That is a conflict of interest that requires recusal. But the court is going to rule on this absolute immunity question. Now, if they were to rule on it according to the law, the clear law of 250 years, the Constitution, there is obviously no absolute immunity for criminal conduct when you're the president. And so what they should do is simply say, this is a bogus claim, as the D.C. Circuit did, and send it back to the trial judge, who can set a trial right away. And she can go to trial in August or whenever it is. If they don't do that, and the suspicion is they won't, because they changed the question that they're answering as they accepted the case, and they create some contours for absolute immunity, and they send it back to the district court to determine what in the indictment should be included in the framework of the new law that they create, then it will not go to trial.
And so we'll know the answer to those questions in a couple of weeks here. And Congressman, Donald Trump will be sentenced in the verdict yesterday on July the 11th. It seems most of the legal analysts we've had on said this is a nonviolent first-time offender, unlikely that he serves jail time. You were the assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. You have some experience in such matters. Do you think there's any chance Donald Trump goes to jail?
Look, I think in an ordinary books and records case like this, that it would be unlikely that he would go to jail. But in this case, you have someone who has attacked the system, attacked the judge, attacked the witnesses, violated a gag order 10 times, refuses to accept any kind of responsibility for his crimes. There are many, many exacerbating circumstances here that the judge will have to consider. And so it's an open question whether or not he will go to jail. Be interested to see what the district attorney asks for. A lot of credit has to go to Alvin Bragg. He remained silent during this entire trial, just as a prosecutor should do. And there's a lot of noise about how he ran on getting Donald Trump when he was campaigning. That is false. He very specifically did not say that he was going to go after Donald Trump. And so a lot of these arguments about the politicization of this case are just bogus. Ultimately, Donald Trump was convicted for lying in order to conceal information from the public in 2016. That is election interference. That is what he's convicted for. And that's a pretty serious crime. It'll be interesting to see what the judge does at sentencing.
Democratic member of the Oversight Committee, Congressman Dan Goldman of New York, thank you very much for being on this morning.